Hi, this is Kate from Izzalicious Designs. Today I'm going to show you how to make my little graduation hat. Well, it's not so little, is it? It's quite large actually. I'm going to do it in blue today because I think that's going to be far easier for you to actually see the bands. Black can sometimes be a little bit difficult to see when you're doing a video of it. So, blue bands. I'm using the Rainbow Loom Ocean Blue, and then I'll probably do the tassel in white. So you're going to just need two colours. This is going to be a joint project between your loom and your hook, okay? So this bottom part here is hook only, the bit that goes on your head, and then this top part is going to be made on your loom. Now, that being said, you have a variety of different looms to use. I've done this as a 12 by 12, okay, in the move it forward technique. So if you're not familiar with that, you can familiarize yourself. I have it's a little panda bear mural that shows you the move it forward technique. I will be doing it in this particular video as well. Now, if you don't want to do the move it forward, you have the option of getting 4 looms and putting them together, and when you lay your bands you would do it all in one go, and that's absolutely fabulous if you have 4 looms. Not everybody has 4 looms. A lot of people only have 1 loom, which is why we do the move it forward, because it doesn't matter if you've only got the 1 loom. You can still, well, you can make a mural any size you like, any width, any length, with 1 loom using the move it forward and move it up technique. That being said as well, you can also do it by using a nifty knitter, which is one of these contraptions that you've probably seen at your craft shop. And it's similar. You can make a nifty knitter by popping out the center peg of your loom and popping out that base plate. And then you would use these mini base plates, you'd put them all the way down the very bottom here. Now, that's fantastic, except you are limited to this amount of pegs because you can't go through the base plates. Alright, so that does limit you a little bit, which is why a nifty knitter, you can actually make a lot more. Let's see how many they got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This particular one, this blue one, has 18 pegs and we're only using 12. They do come much larger, so if you're into mural making, they do make much larger ones of these as well. But we're not going to use that either. We're going to use our move it forward technique. You're going to need your loom in standard configuration, which means all your columns are going to be the same height. You are going to need your base plate removal tool, which is on the end of your hook, your Rainbow Loom hook. You will probably need a stitch marker for when we do the base of the hat, and a hook. I'm using a 2.75mm hook for that. I just find that is the nicest size that I like to personally do my crochet with. So to get started with move it forward, the thing to understand is we are now going to be trying to do 12 columns, and we only have 3 available to us. We're going to be double banding. The arrow is pointing towards us. What we need to do at all times is have a pair of lead bands. These lead bands will then add onto, so for example, if we were pretending that this was our next row, or column, I'm sorry, you need this to move over to here, to the 4th, okay? But because we don't have that 4th, it just has to sit here looking pretty, waiting for us to move this first column over to become the 4th. So put this here, these 2 bands, because we are double banding, sitting here doing nothing. And we're going to take 2 bands and place them from the center to the right and from the center to the left. It is important to put these ones first, okay? You always have to make sure that the right hand ones are on before the left. Then all you're going to do is lay your bands, again 2, all the way to the bottom of your loom on each column. Now if you want to do a different colour, I don't know, I'm as you know not American, I don't know the colour of the graduation hats for different years or grades or whatever you call them here. So we're going to put our bands all the way to the bottom. On each column. The beauty of doing this particular style is it does give you a nice edge. We were talking on my Facebook channel yesterday about left-handed loomers versus right-handed loomers and whether it makes a difference for you, and for some it really does, and for other they find that they actually loom right-handed. And I don't know whether that's because they follow right-handed videos on YouTube or what. Another girl had the fabulous idea of watching the videos through a mirror so that they are reversed for her so that she can do them easily. It's funny, as somebody who's right-handed, I'd never actually given it much thought, which is very egocentric of me, I guess. So my hat off to all the lefties out there that put up with us righties. So all the way to the bottom. Now, at the bottom, push these ones down. Again, we need lead bands. So you're going to put 2 here to go across to column 4 when we're ready, but we're not ready for them yet. Then you're going to put 2 from the centre to the right. Remember, the right has to come first. And then from the centre to the left. And we need to put an end cap right here in this little corner. So single band wrap it once and twice. And that just pops on this peg here. We also need to do crossover bands, and these are very important. It keeps the whole mural together. If we didn't have them, these wouldn't join up. Can you see the crossover bands? They wouldn't join up. These would just be loose and nothing would be kept together. I have found that you can stretch a crossover band between 3 to 6 columns at a time, but it's best to do it between about 5. So we're going to stretch it across these 3 pegs. Because we're doing 12 columns, you can cut it into, say, 4, 8, 12. So you could do 3 sets of crossover bands and just do them over 4. And that might work as well. So there we go, there's our crossover bands. Now what we're going to do is loop these up. The first thing to remember is you need to push down past that end cap and grab the 2 bands that are going horizontally and loop those to the centre peg. And you can loop these ones as well that go, so loop both of those like that. Alright, we're then going to loop up our first column, push the crossover bands back with the back of your hook. Now this is a technique that I use murals, to do murals, but I also use this technique in figure making. When I have a figure that might be bigger than a single loom, I use the move it forward technique. So I do find it quite a handy technique. Dig down again, you're going to do this center column. And the trick also is when you've decided how many pegs you're going to stretch your crossover bands over, you need to make it uniform. Obviously the last set can be a little bit different, but if you're doing over 3 or over 4, try and make all of them go across 4 so that there's some uniformity to it. We've done these 2 columns. You're going to dig down here, take this up and across. Okay, now this is where the fun bit happens. Push these bands down with your finger or your hook, back of your hook. We're going to take this column here is safe to take off our loom. It's secured here because this goes across So if you take this off like that, it's not going to go anywhere, it's just going to sit there. I use the back of my hook and I just gently lift up like this and just keep it beside the middle column. Now always be careful at the bottom here, this part always likes to come off, so I gently take it off like that. So this column is now effectively free to use. So what you're going to do is get your base plate removal tool, move your base plate, and you're only going to move the two small ones. Move it forward so that it captures these two, column 2 and 3, but you have space here to add another one. Leave the big base plate in the middle and take off the bottom base plate and do the same as you did up the top so that it has these free. You can then take this first column of pegs off and, just like the name suggests, move it forward. Now remember we said we're doing 12 columns, so that means we need to put a pair here to go across to number 5, and we need to take the pair that are on number 3 and put them on top of number 4, and then we can lay our double bands all the way down this column. So I'm at the bottom here. Do you remember I have to put a pair here to go across to 5? So there's my pair, my lead pair, and then I'm going to take the pair that are sitting here on 3 and pop them on top of 4 so that those ones are trapped underneath it. We need to pull our crossover bands over to capture this new column, and this is column 4. So move these across like so. Now we can loop up the middle column. First though, we have to grab these two and move them across to the end like that, and then we can dig down and loop up this center. Now I'm not going to do all 12 with you. I'm going to show you how we change our crossover bands, and then I will catch up with you again just before we finish. So at the top here, dig down to the first column. Do you see we've got this pair of bands here that need to come across? Dig down. That locks this column into place. Put your thumb here so it doesn't fly off and you don't lose everything, and gently ease. And remember, you can push everything down as well. That always helps to keep things in. And now you can gently ease this second column, which is now the first column, off your loom. Again, be careful here, this is the tricky one. Move it down. See, we have this big base plate, we need to move it forward to accommodate the next column. So keeping the two mini base plates holding your loom together, take your big base plate off and move it forward so that it is now holding the middle peg, row of pegs, column of pegs, and the third, the right hand side column of pegs. Then this left hand one is free to take off, and you got it, move it forward. Okay, again, two bands as your lead bands. Take the two lead bands that are on the center peg and place them on the right hand column of pegs, and then we can lay our double bands all the way to the bottom of our loom. Now, if you remember, this is column number 5, and we said that we were going to do crossover bands between 4 pegs because we've got 4, 8, 12. So we're going to change crossover bands, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Because if you had them stretched too far, they would snap. And they'd bunch everything up and it would look really nasty. So place your last 2 here. Then remember we need 2 lead bands. Pop them on the end of the last peg here, ready to go across. And these lead bands that you have here on your 4th column, you move across. So they're ready to go across like that. Remember what I said? This is our 5th and this is our 4th. So to add a new band, you can't just put it here because you'll have this great big gap all the way up. So you have to incorporate it into this. So it does include, it's on top of. So this 4th column of pegs ends up having 2 crossover bands over it. So go from the middle peg to the right, all the way up, okay? All the way up like that. And now, again, you dig down past the bottom, and grab a thicker hook, grab the 2 bands that go horizontally to the right, okay, and then we loop up this middle column. Push back, you've got 2 crossover bands now to push back with the back of your hook. Make sure you do that. Remember we have these ones here to lift up and move across. And then once you've pushed everything down again to keep things in place, you can gently ease this first column off your loom. Again, careful here. There we go. And this time, because we moved the big base plate last time, we move the mini base plates. So take this off and move it forward. Take it off and move it forward. Okay, I am going to get back to you when we have laid the bands for column number 12. Alright, this was 5. So we have a few more to do. I will catch you back when we're there. So I'm back and I'm on my final column. And because this is my final column, we don't need to put lead bands. So all we're going to do is take these 2 across to our last column, lay the bands down, which again it's still double banding. Now, your crossover bands are only going to go over 3 pegs for this particular set, but that doesn't really matter. So 2 bands all the way to the bottom. The last 2 lead bands here, you're going to pull over like so, and then grab your crossover bands and pull them over, so that they incorporate that last column. Now what we're going to do is dig down at the bottom, grab those 2 horizontal, loop them forward, and you can loop these 2 columns up at the same time now, because this is the last one that we needed to do. all the way to the top, and then drag this, and I tend to pull them up and then across. It just seems easier that way. Dig down to the very, very bottom two, up and across, and this is where we will put our tie-off bands. So again, 2 blue, dig down, grab them, move them to the back of the peg, one over the other in a slip knot, and pull nice and tight. I'm going to take this off our loom. I use the back of a hook usually when I take things off, just to get things started. If there's a lot of bands on a single peg, I use my hook for the entire thing. If it's just 2, I just gently ease them off. And I do it this way so that the rounded side of the peg is what's going against my bands, so we don't snap things. So there we go. Pull it into shape, and that is the top of our little graduation hat. Next, we're going to do this bottom bit. So now we're going to just hide these little tie-off bands, and what we're going to do is just hide them between these bands here. See how you have the crossover bands here? So you're just going to go through those with your hook on the side and drag those back through and hide them. Hide these tie-off bands down the center like that, so that they're not visible. Okay, now you will notice that this one is slightly looser than the others because you only had it going across 3 pegs instead of 4, so you can sort of just smooch those in together so that it's not so obvious. So that is the base, and it's all about the base. We're going to attach a little I don't even know what these are called. We don't really have these unless you graduate university in England, I don't think, not from high school or places. We're going to do the little tassel. Now I'm doing that in white, and all I'm going to do is go through about the center here, somewhere where I can find a spot, like about here. Take a single white figure 8, loop it on itself, and I'm going to draw that back through. Now you might not want it to just go through 2, you might want it to go through a couple more so that it's not pulling on it too badly. And I didn't do that terribly well. Let's go through, there we go. Here's my capped band, pull it through and reclaim. And then you're just going to do capped bands, which is you take the band, you stretch it, loop it on itself and draw through. We're going to do about 15. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you're going to try and get to the edge. 10, 11, 12. See how we're nearly at the edge there? So 12 is good. 12 is good. Maybe 13 just to go the other side. 13. Now what you're going to do is we're doing like a little pivot. So take a single band, wrap it once, twice, 3 times. Take these first 2 loops up and over so that it's in between. Okay, like that. Take a single band, cap it, pull it through all of that. So sometimes it's easier to do the 2 little loops, then the rolled band, and then the other 2 little loops. And that sort of gives us like a hinge. Okay, so we're going to do a couple more capped bands, probably about, I don't know, 6, 7, 1, It's completely up to you. There is no right number. 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is where it will, you can angle it so that it then dangles under like this. 6, 7. Now what I'm going to do is take a bunch of these white. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll take about 6 like this. Take a single band, figure 8, loop it on itself. Pop your 6 bands on your hook like this, and you're just going to grab and move through like that. Now what we're going to do is take one side over here, and we have to get this one up and over like this. This then goes over like that, and we're going to spread this out and move the 6 bands through and let go so that it's captured like that, okay, in a bit of a knot. And then, if I can find my scissors, you just cut these. Now you can make these look a little nicer if you want to by taking another band, pop it through. You're going to wrap it around about once and twice like that, and roll it up so that it goes past that knot like this, and then it sort of keeps them all like that. Okay, so that is how I did the tassel. Now we're on to the fun part of the underside of the hat, and that's going to happen here, and we're only going to use blue. So we're going to put this to one side and grab our loom, and you're going to do a magic ring, single band, wrap it once and twice. Now for this magic ring, if you have a look in here, you can see how many loops you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So grab 10 bands, eight, 9 and 10. Push your hook through, draw back and loop, and let's do that to all the other bands that we have here so that we can make our little magic ring. Now I am assuming that you have watched my beginner's guide to Loomigurumi and that you are familiar with how to make a magic ring and how to do these crochet stitches. If you are not, it's a really good idea to watch that little video, it's only short, before you actually try this. Otherwise you'll get frustrated and angry at me. And take off our loom, spread these around so that they're evenly spaced. And there's our little magic ring. I'm going to move my loom out of the way. We're going to go through our first stitch, which is here. Grab a single band, pull it through, reclaim and do our single crochet. We're going to put our stitch marker on this little band here. That indicates where we start and where we finish. we're going to go through that first stitch again and do another single crochet, and that is what we call an increase, where you do 2 single crochets in the same stitch. And we're going to do that in each of these stitches. So this is number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 are all going to have 2 single crochets in them. And doing 2 little stitches, 2 little single crochets in each of these stitches, and that now has increased the size of our magic ring from 10 to 20. Here's our last one in here. Okay, here's our first one back here. I'm going to put our hook through, and I'm going to do a single crochet, put it through, single crochet, and I'm going to move my stitch marker to sit on that. Okay, so that is now 20 stitches around. Now what we're going to do is a single crochet and an increase, and that's going to be the pattern. Okay, so this was our single crochet, so in this one I'm doing an increase, which, as you know, is 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So there's my increase, and now a single crochet. And an increase, and a single crochet. And we'll do that all the way around. Okay, let's make sure I'm in the right stitch. There we go, better safe than sorry. Easy enough to check. Just stretching this into shape. Back to the beginning, single crochet, and move my stitch marker. Okay, now as you can see, mine is sort of curling up a little bit oddly. I'm just going to stretch it into shape, and it can depend on the type of bands you use, the tension that you have on your hook, but also it will flatten down. After a period of time, the bands will sort of relax and go, and just sort of settle down. Now, what we're going to do is single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, and single crochet 4 times. So, move my stitch marker to the back. In this stitch, all we're doing is a single crochet. And this will sort of draw it up so it almost looks like a little bowl. Back at the beginning, single crochet, and move my stitch marker. And we'll do another round of single crochet. move my stitch marker, and we will do another. Try and get this to sit right. There we go. It's beginning to look like it should. Another round of single crochet. See, this is how it's going to be, well, on the other side here. This is how it will be sitting, like this, when we're done. Back to the beginning, and we'll do one more round of single crochet. See how it's started to actually curl up so that it looks like it would actually fit your head in. Well, not your head, but you know what I mean. back to the beginning, and we're going to do a little slip knot here. So there's our last one, and now we're going to go through that first stitch again, draw through, add your loop to it, and tie a slip knot to tie this off. Okay, and now we can just hide this. See how it's formed its shape? I know it looked a bit awful as we were doing it. It sort of looked a bit wiggly, but it's sorted itself out. We're going to hide this little tie-off band. I'm probably going to just hide it through the back side here, because this is going to be attached to our little graduation cap top. So let's hide this up under some of these bands like that. And now what we're going to do, take the top of your hat, and here is the base, and what we're going to do is put some anchor bands around. Now I don't want the anchor bands to be too close to the center, but that being said, I want them to go around like this. So let's see, I think probably this round here, alright, which if you look inside here is this round here. So I'm going to take my hook, and all I'm going to do is go through, and actually I'm doing it the wrong way. I want the end of it to be this way, so I'm going to go through this way, pull it through, and do a slip knot. Okay, and I'm just going to go around every so often. You can do 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock so that you've got it marked where you're going to be. Okay, sort of just make sure you're at the right level. So do some broader ones to start with. And then sort of go in between these. So there's 4 anchor bands, and now what I'm going to do is go in the center of these 2, sort of, I might go about here, I guess. I'm in a double, so it doesn't really matter. So pull that through and do a little slip knot, not too tight but not too loose. I'm going to go here and do a slip knot, and I'll go between these 2, and I'll do one more between these. Like that. Okay, now this is going to sit here, and I'm going to pull these, and it's quite tricky, so I'll sort of zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. What I want to do, I don't want it to come through to the back, because I quite like that this is not obscured by bands. Okay, so what I'm going to do, here's my slip knot. I'm going to grab a couple of bands here and pull through. I'm going to work my way round to the next one, which is here. Keep this on your hook, go through a couple of bands, grab your anchor and one over the other. Again, holding on, go through a couple of bands, grab the next loop so that it's on your hook, and one over the other. And in the next spot, grab my loop, one over the other, and you're just going to work your way around, tying in these little anchor bands like this. I think this is my last one. like so. When you're at the end, go to the last one, the first one, I'm sorry, take another band, and we're going to just tie in a slip knot like that. Spread this out. Now I probably haven't done that terribly centered, but I don't think it really matters. Go through the center to grab that end of the tie off band and just pull it through so that it's sitting under the hat. Now you can do the these a little tighter if you want to, but that's basically it. Let me zoom back out again for you. That is basically it. And how we did my little, I could have actually moved it this bit forward a bit this way, but there we go. That's how I did the little graduation hat. And it's not so little, kind of fits in my hand. I do have a mini one here, so if anybody wants a tutorial on that, let me know. But there we go. That was the graduation hat. Nice and simple. I hope you enjoy making. Take care. Bye bye.